Still do 7 NUFC Matters shows for free a week. But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications option. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatters1892@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you,
Good afternoon. Sorry I'm late. Wow. The modern technology, honestly, I post quite a few things on eBay, and obviously having to get to use the system is something which I am quite used to it. And unfortunately, this morning I had a situation where a QR code didn't work. It's been used, I was told. So you know what kind of situation develops when you have things like that. It's an absolute nightmare. So from my perspective, job done, all sorted. But we've got it done. So we're moving on. Let's talk about Newcastle United. And afternoon to John, who has put his questions in as always. Afternoon, everyone. Start of another trophy-laden campaign, he says. Well, John, my prediction was 5th. I did think that Newcastle United would finish 5th this year. I also fancied Newcastle United to win the FA Cup. Has my opinion changed in this period of the early August, September period? The answer, no. The answer is no. I genuinely don't think that Newcastle United are going to slip away, finish out of the European positions, and I don't think Newcastle United will end up with no trophy this season. I am still very positive. Despite feeling negative after a couple of the games this season and feeling a bit down, I do feel that Newcastle can still go out and win something. And I do think European places are possible. Why have I got so much confidence? Well, I'll tell you why I've got confidence. It's literally because Newcastle, in flashes already this season, have shown some great performance. Some great performances lie ahead. Barcelona, prime example. Newcastle United for 35 minutes dominated one of the best teams in the world, a team that could go on and win the Champions League this season. And for me, that shows that what we've got in the squad is better than what we had last year. Where are the issues? It's obvious. It's up front. I think it's harsh to judge Newcastle at the moment because Wissa's injured. I do think that Wissa will make a big difference. And I do think that our German striker, Voltemada, will play a huge part as well this season. The big thing is, of course, tonight, Carabao Cup, we're defending it. We need really to get out there, do the business tonight, get into the next round of the Carabao Cup, and just feel a bit more positive after that tonight. Takes us into the Arsenal game on the crest of a wave. We're still in the cup, hopefully get a good draw. And, we go into the Arsenal game, Newcastle will be up for that 100% and hopefully give Arsenal a good game, who've got injury worries. They've got problems with, Madueke now is out for 8 weeks, which is great news for us. Odegaard, another superb player, out injured. Kai Havertz, out injured. The list goes on. So for me, yes, I am still convinced we'll win a trophy. Trophy laden, John. I think that's asking a bit too much to win more than one. But I just have a feeling we've got the FA Cup in the bag this year. I think we'll get a decent run. And you know what happens at Wembley these days? We don't get beat, John. So for me, yes, I think we'll win something. John, next question. Always enjoy these, Steve. Thank you, mate. I enjoy doing them. It is nice to be able to do them. And it's nice, as well, because I can pick and choose the time that I want to do it and the day that I want to do it. And it's a good little filler, I guess, for you guys as well. Are you slightly concerned that the project has stalled a little in recent months, or is it just one of those little bumps in the road that's nothing to worry about? Well, I think somebody asked the question yesterday on Talk of the Toon. Is this down to Mitchell? It might have been you, John. It might not have been. It might have been Blue Rhythm Boy. I can't remember. But it was, is the situation developed with Paul Mitchell mean that we're going to be on the back foot this season, and it's the first time since the takeover we won't have made progress? You know what? I don't think the project has stalled in recent months. I think we did tremendously well in the transfer window, bearing in mind we didn't have a director of football and we didn't have a chief executive. I bumped into Darren Eales last week. I meant to say this on the Amigos. I had 5 minutes chat with him. He looked great, for starters. I know some people on this podcast aren't fans of Darren Eales. I actually think he did a decent job. Other than, of course, I wasn't really impressed with the whole, Mackems in Milan thing in the Champions League. Some of the things were a bit like, dancing like your dad, like cringe-worthy, which I think ultimately is what got on my wick a little bit. But listen, he came in, he did a job, and he didn't disgrace the club or anything like that, like previous people have done. He was just Darren Eales, wasn't he? But he's actually, that's 3 times I've met him now, and he, as a bloke to speak to, actually a canny enough bloke. First thing I said to him was, "How's your health?" The good news was he's on the up. It looks as if he is making a recovery. Looked well. And he said he feels well. And I know, listen, I know a lot of people who've bumped into him in hospital and said, "Oh, Steve, just for the show, blah, blah, blah." I didn't want to talk about his medical, situation. I'm not a doctor, but I did want to share it with, I did want to share this meeting with you guys because it was a positive one. I thanked him for what he'd done at Newcastle. I did also just say to him, he says he knew who I was, obviously, and I know the club watches the podcasts, and I know some of us aren't flavour of the month at the club by some people, but I just said, look, we've only ever given our opinion, and I said, well, I've been speaking, I've been asking after you and passing on my bestie on the podcast, and he went, "Oh, I know." So, you know what? I've gone off track really, but the project hasn't stalled. In fact, they've done really well to keep it on track with all the the mayhem going on behind the scenes. With no sporting director, and I'm still convinced it's an allegation on my behalf, but I still think that Mitchell probably chucked a few names into the hat to maybe his other clubs, rivals and whatever, to spoil our transfer window. It's only my thoughts. It's an allegation. It's not fact, but I do feel that he probably did that more, out of spite. Who knows? Would he have done it out of spite? Would he have done it just in general chat? Who knows? But I mean, football clubs wouldn't be doing their job if they didn't. The first person they rang was Mitchell and said, "Mitchell, what's going on at Newcastle? Like, can you help us with this? And who they're after? And what's the budget this year?" Because it's football, it's business, it's what people do. But look, no, I don't think it's stalled. It has been a bump along the road. The biggest bump, of course, is losing Alexander Isak, guaranteed 20-odd goals a season, man. And having that ripped away from us in such an obvious fashion by Liverpool was awful. It was an awful summer. It felt like a permanent hangover hanging over the football club and amongst the fan base. And from our perspective, we were hoping this summer was going to be great. We're going to keep all our players. We're in the Champions League. We're going to build. We're going to bring another striker in to support Isak and this and that. And it all just went up in a puff of smoke. We thought, we did a podcast, and I think I was saying I can't wait to see Ekitike and Isak together, and dovetailing. Didn't expect it to be at Liverpool. It's spoilt the summer. And we are going to suffer a little bit of a hangover from that because we need to find a way of scoring goals without Alexander Isak, and we need to do that quickly. The games are coming thick and fast. We need to have Voldemort getting goals. We need Wissa back. We need him getting goals. But the most important thing at the moment, whilst there's no Wissa, is we need Anthony Gordon, Harvey Barnes, Anthony Alanga, Jacob Murphy, Bruno Guimaraes, Joe Linton, Lewis Miley, Tonali. All of those people need to be chipping in with goals. And the defenders, set pieces, bloody awful. We need to get better set pieces. We've got a set piece guy. You can see things are changing. How long's it going to take? I don't understand how we've got multiple people over 6'2" in our team and we cannot score a goal from a bloody corner. It's so annoying and frustrating. And that is what you want to see. You want to see Big Dan Burn arriving late and powering one in past the goalkeeper. You want to see Voldemort, coming in at the back post after a flick on by Dan Burn at the front post. I mean, I played football myself at an amateur level, and we didn't need weeks on end to work that out. Arriving late in the box, or putting a big man at the front post and a big man at the back post and one coming in the middle. Do you know what I mean? We used to come up with all kinds of things. We used to put 3 men on the goalkeeper on a Sunday morning. The referee used to give a free kick answer and say it was bad sportsmanship. But, probably the elbow that we gave the keeper didn't help. But yeah, I mean, it's just little things like that. Everybody, it's a team responsibility to score goals, and Newcastle United need to start scoring goals across the pitch. And that needs to happen even if you've got a striker. That needs to happen even if Wissa is getting 20 goals a season. You still need people pitching in. Any good team has that, So, yeah, John, there was bumps in the road, but not as big as some people are making out. What happens when Wissa's fit, says John? I'd love to see him playing just forward if Nick, but will Eddie go for it? He sticks with 4-3-3. It's not going to happen. Any thoughts? John, sadly, I think that's what he will do. He will stick with 4-3-3. I do think we'll see more of Wissa and Voldemort together than we did of Wilson and Isak, because I think these two players will complement each other. The problem is, moving forward, it's having that option coming off the bench. Now, at the moment, you've got a Sula who can come on and change things. But I think it'll be horses for courses. I think he'll go 4-3-3. I think some games where, like Bournemouth, for example, so many people criticising that Bournemouth match, right? But Bournemouth is always a tough place to go. We went down there and we dominated, play in spells, but we kept a clean sheet. Not many people will go to Bournemouth this season and keep clean sheets. I would be very surprised if people did. We kept Semenyo quiet. He wasn't in the game. We really just did a job on Bournemouth. The only downside was we didn't get a goal. If we can turn these 0-0s into 1-0s, do you know what I mean? We're going to have a shot at the title at some point doing that. I know it's not pretty. And I know this is the kind of thing that got Dalglish the sack, but you know what? That's if you want to win titles. Would you rather win a title with the league, a Premier League title, winning 1-0, or do you want to come second and get beat 4-3? I mean, that's the kind of position we're in. I want to see Newcastle win the title. Before I pass away, that will be great. And I don't care how they do it, as long as they do it. Of course, everybody's dream is to see Newcastle win the title and play swashbuckling football, scoring 5 goals every game. But in reality, that doesn't always happen. But you can win titles by being that team that gets a 1-0 away and wins 2 and 3-0 at home. It's finding that kind of happy medium, but I think Eddie sticks with 4-3-3, John. I don't see him changing, but I do think in games we'll see more of those two together, as and when, if it's required, if it's needed. I genuinely think that, we'll see that, but it's all about rotation, and it's about the players getting used to what they've got. But we need, and I'll hark back to this, we need players chipping in with goals from elsewhere. That's what we need. And if we don't have that, then that's where the problem lies. We need the midfield to pitch in and do their bit. Do you agree that defensively we're really looking strong? And if it can improve at the other end, it'll be another quality season. Yeah, John, I mean, you can tell from my attitude when I do these shows, because this is usually the only time you get to hear what I actually think. But yeah, I do genuinely think we look strong already. The squad's stronger. We've got strength in depth. You know, people forget Bruno and Joe Linton were on the bench, you know, at the weekend. We went with Miley and Tonali together in that kind of midfield, and we at Bournemouth was a gamble, but Eddie sees Miley day to day. Miley's clearly given him the right effort and the right commitment on the training ground, and he did a job. And no, he wasn't a 10 out of 10. Nobody would expect him to be a 10 out of 10 for the amount of games he's played. He was a solid 7, though. And again, he did what Longstaff does. And I just don't think people appreciate players like Sean Longstaff, which is what Lewis Miley essentially had to do at the weekend. People who break down play and get stuck in and lay the ball off sideways aren't going to get the praise that somebody who goes forward and scores you a wonder goal like Harvey Barnes is going to get. But I thought Miley had a decent enough game. And I think Newcastle get it. They know what the limitation is at the moment because they haven't got an out-and-out 9. And I just genuinely think that we will improve. I just hope Wissa isn't going to be one of these who gets an injury and an injury and an injury. And I hope that this knee injury is only as bad as it's been and kept him out for this period of time. I hope it's not something underlying. I hope it's not something which should have had an operation but didn't, because that's my only worry. Because really, we're still a striker short. I don't think anybody who's watched football would say Asula's a striker. He's more of a midfield player, and I just, we're still a striker short. We've got Voldemort, who's a different kind of striker. We've got Wissa. I still think we need another one, and I'd still go out and look for somebody in the next 2 windows. Summer window obviously is the main one, but we've got one coming in January, and if we look in January, see if we can get anybody. I still would have took a gamble on a Calvert-Lewin or but I don't do the books at Newcastle. I've got no idea what they could afford and what they can't afford, and of course those PSR things are a nightmare. I mean, people are saying Voldemort was a rushed signing, and look at what we've got. Well, what was Sesko? Sesko was. I think we've ended up with a better player than Sesko, if you want my honest opinion. I think Newcastle have ended up with a really, really talented young man, a really talented footballer who will only get better and better. So I'm very confident, John. And all your questions, I've given a positive answer. So I think you can see that. Afternoon, Gary. Steve, seeing the current state of play and the improvements that will come with our results, where do you see us at the end of the season? Do you expect us to win anything this season? I mean, I've answered this right at the start, Gary, and I always end up playing catch up with the question, so I apologise, but I will reiterate it for people who've tuned in late. I still see Newcastle finishing 5th, and I still see Newcastle winning a trophy. I still feel we'll win the FA Cup this year. I don't know. I just think, with the Carabao Cup, there's that kind of emphasis. Oh, it's our cup, we're defending it, etc. Tough game tonight, really tough game. There's no givens tonight. This isn't a game which we're going to win 4 or 5-0. This is a game where we're going to be made to win a place in the next round. I've just got a feeling that we will go out of the Carabao Cup, but I do think we'll have a good cup run in the FA Cup. We're due one, and I just think that will be that'll be the feeling within the squad. If they go out of the Carabao Cup before Christmas, and we get to the FA Cup in January, and we're out, let's just say for argument's sake, we're out of the Champions League, and we're heading out of the Champions League, and we're out of the Carabao Cup. Our focus then is European positions and FA Cup, and I just think Newcastle will give it a good go this year. So yes, answer to your question, Gary, Newcastle will finish 5th. Newcastle will still win a trophy, and I've got to stick by what I said at the start of the season, which is the FA Cup. 15 months ago, someone decided it was a really good idea to appoint Paul Mitchell as sporting director. His reign of terror was a disaster. How important is it that lessons are learned and similar mistakes avoided? Well, John, it wasn't a reign of terror. I mean, he just got off to a bad start, and coming out publicly in a place like Newcastle, of all places, which everyone reads anything and everything, and saying what he said, what did he say? I can't paraphrase it. It was something along the lines of that the setup wasn't worth. Well, the setup wasn't very good. That was what he was trying to implicate. I just don't feel. I just don't think he hit it off with Eddie Howe. And I just think, well, I know from personal conversations with people that Mitchell was suggested to Amanda and Mirdad, and they were told not to go with Mitchell as a sporting director. That's why they went with Dan Ashworth. Dan Ashworth turned out to be a mistake as well. So it's very important that lessons are learned, John. They've got to learn the lessons, and similar mistakes do need to be avoided. It seems more positive listening to Eddie Howe when asked about sporting directors, football directors. He says, no, that they are very important. So, there wasn't any kind of, oh, I don't want one. It was, they're very important. So he definitely wants one because it takes the load off. Is it going to be Wilson? Mitch and Stu have mentioned Wilson, for months now. And I thought he would have gone in now. I thought he would have been brought in now. But whether there's a hold up, I really don't know. But it will be interesting to see who comes in. But yes, I do think it is very important that lessons are learned and that similar mistakes are avoided. Will things really start moving on the commercial and marketing side of the club with David Hopkinson now established? How important is the increase to revenue? John, I'll answer your second part first. The increase to revenue is massively important. As we all know, PSR hasn't gone away. Yes, we've made a lot of money off Alexander Isak. We've spent a lot of money in this window, but we've also got rid of a lot of the fringe players, the dead wood, in some cases. But we've got those wages off the bill. So, Newcastle must be in a better position with regards to, PSR now than it has been, in those first, after the first 4 years. So hopefully David Hopkinson now will be able to come in and look at other things. The one thing is very evident is since the arrival of the new CEO, ticketing has been clamped down on. The big reveal about 100 plus tickets going to a Dundee school really has set the cat amongst the pigeons or magpies, and we've ended up with this big hoo-ha at the club over touting. That seems to be dovetailing and running alongside a BBC campaign, which none of us were aware of, and has suddenly come to light, of them looking at tickets being sold on illegal ticketing sites. So ultimately, it looks as if either David Hopkinson has come in and decided he was going to do this himself, or he's been made aware of it because of this Dundee ticket situation, whatever. But regardless of that, it's great news, and there's a full investigation going on at the club. I think that's brilliant. And I think that tickets shouldn't be going on these sites. I think it's a disgrace that people are being asked to pay anything up to 1,500 quid on a website, which again is, it's making money for somebody else. All we did, and this is what we said on this platform, what I said on this platform, all doing, bringing the membership in and doing everything online and taking actual hard season tickets off everybody. All that was ever going to do was take touting online. It was never going to do anything. It was going to remove those touts from outside the ground. Some of us we all knew, I never had to buy one off a tout outside. I've had a season ticket since 91, 92. But, ultimately these people now, aren't outside the ground anymore. What we do have is people who are online, who are faceless, who could be sitting anywhere in the world, who are now doing touting. And it's bizarre. It's absolutely bizarre. So hopefully David Hopkinson and what he's come in to do will help, will work. And it'll be good. Okay, let me scroll down. Let's scroll down. John asks you, if we win a trophy and finish mid-table, would that be okay? John, I will be disappointed if we finished mid-table. I really, really, really would be. And because the only way that we can ever claw back some of this, the gap between us and the so-called Big Six with the PSR issues that we face, is by finishing in the Champions League every season. Arsenal, I think they missed out. Was it a few years ago they missed out on Champions League before Arteta came in? But they ended up, I think one point, it was 19 or 20 consecutive years in the Champions League. Newcastle can't compete with them because of that kind of situation. Newcastle need to be in the Champions League season after season after season. And it's that one thing that Mike Ashley said, which made sense. Nothing he used to say made sense to me at all. In fact, he used to make us very angry. But he said, I'll leave this club when we win a cup or we get into the Champions League, which is like winning a cup. And he was right. It is like winning a cup. And financially, it brings millions and millions of pounds in, and that's what Newcastle need. They need it every year, that £100 million paycheck that comes in from just qualifying for the Champions League, and that goes alongside the TV money that they get from the Premier League, which goes up and up and up and up and up. But yeah, that gives Newcastle a huge advantage. That gives Newcastle advantage. Then, yeah, it allows them to catch up with those clubs above them. We'll never catch up with them completely, but it gives us a chance to compete with them. But it also nullifies the people behind us. It nullifies the Aston Villas. Look at the state of them this season because they didn't qualify for the Champions League and the terrible transfer window that they've had to endure. But that's what you need. You need to constantly get in the Champions League to put a gap between you and them. And that's it. It's as simple as that, really. So I would be disappointed. Of course I would if we finished mid-table and winning the FA Cup. What's that bring you? £1 million or something for the entire run? But I'd want to win. I want to win the trophy. So in the words of George Mitchell, I'm a greedy little duck, John. I want to see us win a trophy and finish in the Champions League. At the moment, it's not that we're scoring, it's the fact that we're struggling to create chances consistently. That a concern, any thought? I think this comes back down to getting those players in tune with what we do. Get them Eddie Howd, get them fit. Some of them aren't used to this high press. And I think, that's the problem. Some great balls, by the way, just get a drink. Some great balls in by Elanga against Barcelona. That's what we need to see more of. It's very, very, it's very different to what we've had in the past. And I think, I'm trying to think of who it was. I watched Craig Hope's podcast last night. He did a 20-minute one on the Bournemouth match and on Voldemort, and he was talking about how Isaac leaving affects Murphy. Murphy and his wonderful form was down to the fact that he had all those assists for Alexander Isak. Now Voldemort is a different player, so at the moment he's not getting those assists because we're not scoring goals. It has a knock-on effect with everybody. Anthony Gordon is the same. Anthony Gordon has to find a different way, and to supply it and to help Voldemort score goals whilst we're waiting for Wissa to come back in. So it's, I think we are creating chances, but I also think away from home, Eddie's gone with this deliberate ploy of setting up not to lose. And I don't think that's a bad idea. I'm not going to criticise it, but I think let's say we set up not to lose as we have been doing. Once Wissa's back and Wissa starts scoring goals, we're going to be in a different situation. Those games we're losing, those games we're getting 0-0 draws, we'll be getting 1-0, 2-0 wins. I just think, I don't think we're struggling to create chances. I think it's just the way we're setting up. It'll change. It always changes. But I think these players need to get up to speed as well with the way that Eddie plays. Seeing more of these personal attacks on players, not just at our club and others also, it's mostly on social media. Is there a way of protecting players, or should the social media companies be more proactive in stopping abuse? Good question, Gary. You're obviously referring to the Lewis Miley situation, which was disgusting. I thought he'd switched his comments off because of it, but apparently his comments were always switched off. But I just don't understand why people would take to social media. I don't understand why a Newcastle fan would do that, or any football fan would have a pop. But it's because players have got a profile. They're out there now. And for some people, that means they're there to be got at. Social media, you keep off it when you've had a drink. That's probably rule number one, because if you don't, you could say something that you regret or something that could get you into trouble. So don't go onto social media when you're drunk. It's probably the best thing. Don't go onto social media straight after the game if you're feeling angry, because you're not going to give a reflective opinion. You've seen that real time. You haven't seen things back. Go home and watch the game again. But for me, I just don't understand people who do that. Social media companies will never be proactive. YouTube is probably the most proactive as far as trolling's concerned. Their system and their rules and regs are constantly updated. And, they do really pay attention to what somebody says. If you've got something on there that's AI generated or abusive or, I don't know, defamatory, they really do pay attention. And they're a lot better to get on with than X, Instagram, Facebook, you name it. I've always found X has been better at taking things down. Facebook to a lesser extent. Instagram and TikTok absolutely useless. So yeah, I've had experience of, as you know, back in the day. So I don't think there's any way of protecting the players other than telling them don't go on social media. Which of course, how can you tell a grown man not to go on social media when everybody's on it? Halfway through the show, time for the ads.
A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them at www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can find them at their website, mrvickys.co.uk. Email info@mrvickys.co.uk or telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. 2-crew driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels and no interchanges. Hot and cold snacks and drinks available on the coach, all excursions included. Their website, unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com. Telephone 01670 632 460 or 0791 666 4174. Just £30 per person deposit. Thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. And if you like listening to us as a podcast, you can go to Sports Social Podcast Network or to iTunes, Spotify, or other podcast providers. If you want to support the show, then hit the subscribe button. It's free. We do 7 shows a week. Hit the little thumb up under the video, which is the like button, or click share to share to your social media. You can also join the channel on YouTube by hitting the join button for as little as $1.99 a month. If you want to become an NUFC Matters member, you can go to nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk. It's a £25 one-off fee. You get your pen, you get your badge, a key ring, you get your beer mat and your fridge magnet and your membership card, nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk for that. And we have an event early next year, 13th of February 2026, an evening with Beardsley, Waddle and Gascoigne takes place at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House. To buy your tickets for that event, go to the box office 0191 243 1171 or Tyne Theatre and Opera House.uk.
Don't forget, our Christmas do is on the horizon. An evening with Warren Barton in aid of Age UK North Tyneside. Tickets are £12 from nufcmatters.co.uk. Get yourself onto the website, get yourself along. Adam Henderson is going to come along and do a little acoustic set, and Sid from Talk of the Tune will be on hand to play some music, do a little bit of DJing. So get yourself along. Always good to see you. Yes, Gary, and rest in peace to Ian Henderson. Good lad, Ian. Got to see him quite a few times. He used to come along to Dog and Parrot when we used to do the talk-ins along there. But saw that sad news. He was a taxi driver, Gary, I think, if I'm picking the right person here. But yeah, Dickie, rest in peace, lad. John says, I'm assuming Alanga was supposed to be an upgrade on Murphy. Are you hopeful that will become apparent soon? The Barcelona game, Johnny, was excellent. He just needs to get his fitness levels up and get Eddie Howd. I'm repeating myself here. But you know what? I think he's a great player, Alanga. And, when he played for Forest, he was exceptional. So I don't see there being an issue with Alanga. I think he'll dovetail nicely with Murphy. I think we've got strength and depth on the right-hand side. I am concerned about the left. I think Barnes will do this season, but I'd love to see somebody else come in instead of Barnes next year on that left-hand side, along with Gordon, dovetail him with Gordon. Presume we can keep a hold of Gordon. Gordon, of course, was the person we all thought might go to Liverpool. Are they going to come back and upset the apple cart next season? Who knows? But yeah, Alanga's an upgrade. There's no doubt about it. He's younger than Murphy, I think. But look, it's strength and depth that we need. I do fear a cup upset, John, because Bradford are playing well, and yeah, it's a League One side, and we shouldn't get beaten by them, but wasn't an easy game against Wimbledon last year. We really, really, really need to be on our game tonight, and changes are plenty, I'm sure, from Eddie Howe. I mean, we'll have 7 at the weekend, so I think there'll be another set of changes tonight. I think we'll see Ramsdale in goal, which I'm looking forward to. I'll be very surprised if it's Nick Pope tonight. But I think the beauty of this squad is we can rotate, John, and I think. Of course, you should fear an upset because Bradford. This is Bradford's Cup final. 4,900 fans coming up to St James's Park tonight. I always liked Bradford. I always had a soft spot for them because I remember the horrendous Bradford fire. Of course, I think we all know if you're of a certain vintage, you remember where you were when you heard about that. I was coming back from Newcastle's home game on the bus, and somebody had it on that transistor radio, and I had a copy of the Pink. In my hand, which had the picture of had a photograph of the initial start of the fire on the front. Awful, tragic, and of course Peter Jackson, good friend of mine, former Newcastle United captain back in the 80s, as well. This will be a special game for him tonight. So I don't think he'd be there, but I am hoping to get him an invite to Newcastle via a close friend who's got a box. And next year, Peter Jackson, it would be good to get him up and come along to the game. Will we get outsung tonight? It depends how the game's going, John, is the honest answer. It depends how many fans are there who go on a regular basis. These cup games tend to bring people who, maybe don't go to the game as much, who don't know all the songs. I think the atmosphere will be quite flat tonight, John, at times, and I do think Newcastle fans will be keeping themselves for Sunday. I don't think it'll be a rip-roaring crowd. So potentially we could get outsung at certain points. This is their cup final, and I hope the Bradford fans enjoy themselves. Clubs should have a policy for helping players who are subject to online abuse, just the way it is these days, and the authority seem unable to sort things out. But they do have to have a mental welfare officer, I think, at the club. Welfare officer, that'll be what they're called. So yeah, certainly do think that's the case. Darren's line up: Ramsdale, Trippier. I'm not sure Trippier's fit, but I get where you're coming from. Chow, Botman, Hall, Miley, Harrison, Bruno, Osula, Gordon, Park, and give Alfie and Park a go. Yeah, Darren went along to see the 21s play. He goes to watch them quite a bit, and he's not very impressed with Park. I know Darren's not impressed with many things, but he's not impressed with Park. That's what we're getting back at that level. With the Miley abuse, it does now when people like Geordie Josh with a follow-on abusing the place. But I didn't see that, Dave. I can't comment on that. And obviously, I don't like to comment on other channels. Don't really know the lad that well, to be honest. But look, widening my opinion on social media as a whole. We did a campaign years ago called "Think Before You Tweet," and that adage should still be followed now. Do before you send a message on social media, because it is very important, whether that's a player or to another supporter. The FA Cup would be epic. You never know. Yes, 5th in the FA Cup would be mint. I think so as well, yeah. And a lot of people would love to see us win the FA Cup. Turpy, Marciano, hope you're well. Would you rather have a good run into the late stages of the Champions League and finish 4th or 5th, or finish 7th and win another cup? Good question. For me, on that basis, I think we could still get Europe with 7th. It wouldn't be the Champions League, but it would be into a European Cup that I believe we could win. So I tell you what, if that's what you're offering, Turpy, I'll take 7th and win in the FA Cup. Yeah, it's sad news about Dickie Henderson, mate. Yeah, I've just seen that. Obviously miles behind in the chat, so I apologise. From rumours this morning, we're now targeting a new striker this January, which sounds like Osula could be on his way. Well, we nearly sold Osula in the summer window, so yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. We do need another striker. We need an out-and-out striker, somebody who scores goals straight away. What will it say if we fail to extend the contracts of Tonali, Tino and Hall? If it doesn't happen, what's going on? Yeah, I mean, I guess as well, it's a two-way street, that, John, because players have got to want to stay and want to extend. But extending contracts and getting improved contracts tends to mean more money. Newcastle will have a decision to make with their PSR. Do they decide to increase the wage structure? Have they got a wage structure? They've got to have. Everyone has a wage structure of some sort. But are they going to... are they going to break ranks and suddenly start paying a player 200 grand? That seems to be the issue at the moment. Newcastle can't compete with the wages. When a player comes up for grabs and Newcastle go in for him, it's an appealing project, but an appealing project where you're getting 100 grand a week is less appealing to a footballer who's going to go to another club and get 200 grand a week. That's the kind of place I think we're in at the moment. Those figures are just up the top of my head, but I'm just trying to give you the kind of scenario, But yeah, I mean, I'd love to see these players tied down. I always feel like Tonali probably feels like he owes the club a little bit. So I'd like to think there's a bit more loyalty in him than there was in a certain striker. Lewis Hall doesn't seem to be Eddie's favourite. He had to work hard to get in the team. He was brilliant. Then he got injured, and then he seems to have struggled to get back in again. I just hope he can keep in and keep his place. As for Tino, Man City are sniffing around. Obviously, the story that came out yesterday that they were really very interested in Bruno was another thing. But I just think the subsequent aftermath of losing Isak will always mean that our players will be vulnerable to a club coming in and being bought. I think that's the way we're all going to feel for a while, sadly. If it was negative about Paul Mitchell, it could well have been me. He'd probably Botman unhappy about his game time and stalling on a new contract. Yeah, I mean, you've really got to look at this whole situation, Darren, haven't you? And Botman hasn't been fit. The injury and subsequent operation that he didn't have, and then the operation he had to have, is put him back. But he looked good the other night, and yeah, I mean, he's definitely. That looks like the future, him and Chow, but is he stolen on a new contract? I don't know where that's come from. I'm not sure at all. Afternoon, Gary. I shouldn't be watching. I'm listening at work. Okay, we'll not say anything, mate. Just to hope next summer we don't go in for Kane at 52 million at age 32. It's not a value for money due to his age. Yeah, I think you're right, Darren. It's I would have took a gamble on him this year, but Spurs have got an option to buy back, and what their manager said last night was, he's more than welcome back, so he'd quite happily keep him. But I'd rather he didn't come and break Shearer's record. You're not alone in thinking that every player had a link to a cartel club. Cheers, Turpy. And Darren, the Kane will be back at Spurs. They've got first dibs. Yeah, that's just what I've said. Yeah, 100%, mate, they have. Did Mitchell bring regress rather than progress? Anyone can do the maths. Losing Isak was incredible considering who our owners are, but Nick and Johan can do well. I don't think Mitchell brought much to the table. He signed a lot of youngsters. And I still think the aftermath of Mitchell, John, could be a player that comes through who actually we sell for a lot of money. That could end up being the final piece of the Mitchell story. One of these players, like Harrison, for example, might come good. I don't have a list off the top of my head who he signed, but we will find out if a player comes through, and we'll go, oh, who signed him? Oh, that was when Mitchell was here. So, but I just don't think we didn't regress. And as I say, we had a good transfer window. We managed to bring in some good players, taking away losing Isak, which nobody could have stopped because of his actions. The only way we could have stopped that is by clearly breaking a wage structure, and by giving him more money than anybody else, which would have upset the dressing room. So I don't think Newcastle did the wrong thing with Isak. But John, I just think, I don't think we've regressed. I'd probably stood still is the best way to describe it. Agreed on the impact of the summer. We came out arguably of our best season with an elusive trophy. We could have been flying had it been handled professionally. 3 men on the goalkeeper, Bully Boys under league tactics, Benny I. That's that was definitely what we did. We honestly had some great ideas. We had one situation on Sunday morning where I had a kid called Davy Southern playing for us, and he'd scored 2 goals, and then he went 1-on-1 with a keeper, and he cheekily lobbed the keeper. It flew over the top of the keeper, and it bounced onto the goal line. And David managed to get right up to the ball. He got down on his hands and knees, and he headed the ball in. And the referee disallowed it for unsporting behaviour. Unbelievable. Sunday football, man. And the media with Isaac's over the top. He scores a goal, and it's all about him, not the team winning last night. He'd be unsettling the squad soon. It's funny, that's a conversation me, Mitch, and Stu just had this morning in our WhatsApp group for the professionals. 100%. You can already see it. Slot hammered Ekatike for getting sent off. But there was a tweet as well, which I think I showed on Three's a Crowd last weekend. Some Liverpool fan had put like a montage together of different players Salah put something about the should have respect for the team. Should have respect for the team that won the trophies last season. So there's clearly trouble at Mill, but who cares? It's Liverpool. I used to like Liverpool. I've gone off them this summer. If you had one spare seat in your car for a long away trip, are you taking Darren or Jeff? I'd take Darren because he drives. I don't drive, Mark. I don't know whether Jeff does. But definitely taking Darren, mate. 100%. He'd get you there and back in super time as well, because he was back from Bournemouth at 11:15 or something. He must hoof it. I think when we beat Arsenal this Sunday, we always seem to get under their skin. Yeah, Arteta he loves coming to Newcastle, doesn't he? And do you think the stadium question will be near the top of the CEO's intro? Well, it's going to be there, isn't it? But I don't know. I just don't think. I don't think it can be rushed. This whole situation. I genuinely don't think it can. I just think it'll happen when it happens, and I just think be prepared that if Newcastle do put something out there and do say that there's this is where they want to move to, be prepared for a petition with 25,000-30,000 names on saying you can't build on the park at all. I bumped into one of my mates last Tuesday. I haven't seen it for years. Newcastle fan. And he said we ended up talking about various things, and he started talking about the stadium, and he goes, I didn't want them building on Leazes Park, mind. And I was like, what? And he goes, I didn't want them building on Leazes Park. He says, I grew up there and I grew up around there, and he says that's the park. I still go to today. I take my kids, and I thought, there you go. It's got all kinds of connotations, that park, for people and memories, and and I said, well, what if they built a new one on the set? No, it's not the same. Not the same. That's the kind of people we're going to be coming across. Ordinary Newcastle United fans who will not want it. And this happens, there's Newcastle fans who are in conflict with themselves because they love the club, but they hate Saudis. They hate the Saudi ownership. So, everyone's entitled to their opinion, John. But will it be near the top of the CEO's tray? It will be, but will he be able to perform a miracle and get it done sooner rather than later? I very much doubt it. What will happen, I really don't know. I just hope that they can get it sorted sooner rather than later. Once we start scoring, we'll be taking 3 points as our defence is solid. Derek, you're right. Onus on Bournemouth to beat us. We've got big attacking players out and have made 7 changes from a tough Champions League game 2.5 days earlier. Point was excellent. Yeah, I agree. And this is what people forget as well, but the Champions League is huge. It really is. And that's, it's going to play a part this season, whether we like it or not. And there will be changes. And that's what having a good squad's all about. League winners will be lovely, John. Of course it would. Eddie's doing a great job with squad management and players' minutes. He is, 100%. He needs a bit more luck with injuries, though. Are you worried about the knees of Big Joe and Wissa? I'm hoping the Wissa situation isn't like Botman's when they decided wasn't needed. That's the point I made earlier, John. Again, I'm playing catch-up, so I'll not dwell on that too much. Big Joe, a bit of a concern because it was the injury he had last season. But I just hope the medical team's on the ball this year. Do you think Botman will sign a new contract? Yes, I do, Roger. I do think he'll sign a new contract, but somebody earlier saying potentially wasn't happy with not getting games. No players happy when they're not playing. John, do you agree at the minute that no team has played particularly well, including Liverpool, and that might help us longer in the season? Yeah, I don't think anybody's got off to a great start, performance-wise. Liverpool have got the luck. Even in the Carabao Cup last night, they got a last-minute winner. How many? But nobody's really got up to a flyer, have they? And Newcastle, I think when we look at the league table, we're 3 points on the top, but 4 points off the bottom 3. This is the way it is at the moment in the Premier League. Once upon a time, there used to be a top, a middle, and a bottom. Now there's only a top and a bottom, and it is tight. A good run of games can get you back in Europe. A bad run of games can see you hovering above the relegation places. So, and there's a change of the guard. Some of the teams that were crap last season are better this season, and some of the teams that were better last season are crap this season. So that's what happens. And the new teams coming up, 2 of them are going to form, and Sunderland aren't. So, but it can all change. Nothing's decided on the 24th of September. It's all decided in May, so watch this space. Hello, Steve and chat crew. Hoping for a solid performance tonight and maybe a few goals. Paul, I think you'd be disappointed. I think it'll be a 1-0 or a 2-1 tonight. Genuinely can't see there being lots of goals. I know lots of people feel it's going to be 3s and 4s. I can't see it. I really can't. I hope I'm wrong, but I can't see it. Good team, Bradford. Top of that perspective league. I just would, I wouldn't get too carried away, is what I'd say. It wasn't fit for purpose, and for me, he was right. If not, we should have sold Minty and Anderson. That's what he said. Correct. Paul Mitchell said the transfer policy wasn't fit for purpose. Everyone's chipping in with that. I've got zero hope we'll finish top 5. I think our window is a total disaster. John, really? Isaac's loss has derailed our progress. Mitchell, the sporting director, was an utter disgrace. Well, I agree with your last bit, mate. I don't think it was a disaster, the window. I would suggest that we got our 10th choice striker in Voltamata, or maybe somebody who wasn't even on the list. But we got Wissa rather than Mbuemo. I don't think there's much between the two. We got Malik Chow in, who we chased previously. We've got Alanga in. Everybody would have wanted Alanga. And we got Alanga, and he's a good player. So it wasn't a complete disaster. And we got rid of some driftwood. We got Ramsdale in on loan. We'll have to see what he's like. But at the end of the day, I think Dubravka out, Ramsdale in for the short term isn't a bad deal. So I don't think it was a disaster. I've seen a lot worse, John. We should appreciate what's happening at the club at the minute, especially me. Every game seems to be important, which probably wasn't the case long ago, unless it was for us for points to avoid the drop. Wasn't it last season we started slow? Yes, not shooting on goal, then we picked up and started shooting score. We'll get there. Just look at the mess Villa are in. We don't end up like that. Wages over 90%, paying 200,000 towards Sancho. Yeah, exactly. That's 100%. I would agree with you there as well. Let's get a drink. AJ, good afternoon. Good to see you in the chat. Hi, Steve. Hope you're well. Are you surprised we haven't got the talent coming through the youth system that could help chip in with goals, as you suggested earlier? Yeah, it's disappointing, the academy. It's very disappointing. Look, Steve Harper's a good friend of mine. He's in charge of the academy. But, he's not Jesus Christ. He can't turn water into wine. He needs help. And for me, I don't think the Saudis have given the support to the academy that they have to the first team. And I guess that's again down to PSR. I've heard some horror stories about the academy, about players running from one game to go and play in another because the other team's short. And I've heard some horror stories from people who've left the club now. The reason they've left the club is because it's not a very good place to work. So, that'll take time. And that is probably why there isn't anybody coming through en masse. That's why Newcastle are going out and buying lots of youngsters in the hope that they can bring some youngsters through and sell on to help the PSR. It's a bit of a catch-22, AJ, but I'm not surprised because the stories I'm hearing about the academy is it's not very good. But I certainly don't blame Steve Harper for it because I just don't think the Saudis, the owners, are really focused on bringing the academy through yet. They should be linking up with Wolves and boys and, Red Youth boys and, any boys club in the Northeast should be linked. Newcastle as a club should be linked to Gateshead. We should be linked to Gateshead. We should be working on them as a feeder club. That's what we should be doing. God, I'd make some wholesale changes if I was involved. Good CEO gets people under them to get things done. I don't mind seeing a CEO for that's been done and we see the progress. Clubs should financially intervene with the fans that overpay for tickets on third-party sites, provide the name of the supporter, seek with evidence that the club buyer gets 50 quid credit at the club shop. People were getting a refund. They did BBC's documentary this week, documentary news item, which you'll probably be able to get on iPlayer. It actually had people going to the box office who, they took the tickets off them, but they gave them some kind of compensation, but it wasn't a Newcastle game. Still waiting for the set pieces to kick in, as we are meant to be working on these more and more. Yeah, 100%. Dan Burn on the keeper makes 0 sense. Such a waste of time, isn't it? Yeah, 100%. From postman are coming in late. I mean, Christ, the goal he scored in the cup final was a belter. We should be looking at that, Paul, and going, yeah, listen, that's his strength. Let's. I just don't understand. I really don't. We might as well, when we win a corner, just give the ball back to the goalkeeper at time. Negatively, cynically, if we were not to concede a goal but not score either, 38 points is a bye-bye. We will score. Yeah, we will score. There's no doubt about it. I don't think I'm anywhere near the. Am I? There we are. I'm getting close to the end of the questions. I don't know about drinking and coming online. I like the good old Steve on the Malverno show. Yeah, it was funny, wasn't it? Good God. I remember doing News of the World years ago as well and talking about the royal family. Dear me, honestly. What possessed me to do it? I'd just do this to entertain you guys. As fans, we need to unite and back our players if we don't risk feel abandoned by us, and we can't afford that now. Morning, afternoon trolls. If I was a player, Premier League football, I would literally pay someone a wage to look after all my social media, then I'd never look at it again. I mean, I'm sure some people do that. Certainly movie stars do that, etc. So, it's not a bad thing. You just got to make sure that people are, if you go on social media, just be sensible. I got your email. I think I emailed you back, Roger. Alanga was good against Barcelona. Shocked we subbed him off. Yeah, I think a lot of us were. Pleased how Voldemort started already, seems able to link well with the midfield and wings. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at. He's very good at that. He's a good footballer. He's a turn. He really is. Steve, do you think that while Newcastle operate at the level of hoping to come fourth, fifth in cup runs rather than challenge for the title, we'll have to get used to losing big players each summer? Yes, Benny, I do think we'll have to get used to that. I think we'd made the point long before this year that we're going to have to get used to losing players. And I think we all felt it was probably going to be Bruno. Then that summer that Gordon got, off kilter when he was away on international duty, and we all felt he was leaving. We've lost ultimately one of the biggest players in this new era of this ownership. Anybody else going should be easy, Benny. But as long as players are coming in, we'll always be able to get over that. But yeah, I don't think Alexander Isak will be remembered in the same kind of way as Beardsley, Gascoigne and Waddle even, because Newcastle have signed players, and the best way to do it is Newcastle United to win something this season. That's the best way to put it all to bed, and people won't be as worried in the future. Players do see the abuse when Pope was getting it last season. I don't know, Post defending him and his uncle later. Yeah, they do. Longstaff was affected by it massively. Yeah, good luck to Tim Krul. He's hung his boots up and his gloves. It's a great career that he's had. Really nice lad as well. Alfie Harrison was meant to be the next big thing, but don't see much of him. Yeah, we heard massive things from Man City about him, but at the moment, nothing. Maybe he'll be involved tonight. I'm not sure. They're definitely taking care over Botman. Yeah, Paul, they don't want them to have bad injuries to the 100%. How on earth could we pay Harry Kane's wages with our wage structure? Impossible unless we want to be the next Villa. Very true. Steve, how lucky are we to have How? Very lucky. I look at Big Ange, Almiron, Arteta, and wouldn't want them near my club. How is a class act? Yeah, he does so well as well, doesn't he? With the press conferences he's got to do. He must have his head battered before he goes in, but he's brilliant, very professional. Do you have any plans for the channel? I know you like to mix the shows up every so often. No, I'm happy at the minute. I think you guys are as well. I do get told by you guys if you aren't happy. After the transfer window into the new season, it always drops off. So the views always drop down. So we were getting ridiculous views in that kind of summer transfer era. Period, but we don't it drops off. So a show like Talk of the Tune probably hits 1,000 by the time it gets to the end of the week this week. It's weird where it would have got maybe it's got 3,000 during the summer because people are just eager for news and bored and not got any football to watch. So it's weird. It is strange, but no plans for the channel. We've recorded some great shows with George for when I've got a bit of time off. I'm not going to Union, but I've got a couple of trips away in the Champions League. I've got a couple of other trips coming up as well. Got a bit of work coming up, filming work coming up. So I need shows to back up. I will be able to do shows live sometimes when I'm away. But other than that, no. Nothing at this moment in time. The Swede was offered more money than anybody else, but turned it down because he didn't want to extend his contract. Contractors have been waiting for the go-ahead for 6 months to start load testing on Leazes Park. Apparently, she and Wura's putting the block on. Allegedly, I'll stick in there. Wait and see what happens, Mark. But interesting stuff. Same old stuff. I want a massive new stadium, but not in my backyard. When it comes to a new stadium or stay, it's about revenue, and St James's Park will never be enough of one to fight for the Premier League or in the Champions League every season. Okay. Just trying to find any other questions before I finish getting to that end. Where are we? Isaac will be remembered fondly. I meant like an annoying little... Thanks, Trolls. Love Talk of the Tune brings a different perspective. Yeah, and Mark likes it because Sid says bye-bye. Davey says, very fluent in the answer, Steve. Impressive. Oh, thank you, Davey. I do enjoy doing this. As I say, it's one opportunity to be able to get a little chat with you guys and, get the questions. And I appreciate the 300 of you who've tuned in this afternoon to listen to me warble on. If you're going to the match tonight, enjoy it. Don't forget the food bank is at the Gallagher end, so get yourself along to stick some money in the bucket and help them out. Tomorrow, Supermac and Gibbo is at the earlier time of 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So make sure you tune in. Gibbo's got an appointment on Thursday night. So 1 o'clock tomorrow for Supermac and Gibbo. And then the Amigos on Friday. That will be at 5 o'clock as usual. Saturday will now be the professionals. And I think that's at 10 o'clock in the morning. And I think 5 o'clock at night, the professionals on Saturday. Sunday is Three's a Crowd. And that will be at 10 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. Talk of the Tune is one of my favourite shows. It's very rare I disagree with Sid. Bye-bye. Did he hear us last night, though, Mark? I said bye-bye before him, and it nearly threw him. A new stadium needs to be purpose-built for football, or we'll lose our soul. Cheers for the word, Steve. No problem, Roger. Absolute pleasure to entertain you lot. Have a good day. Enjoy the match. See you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.